And would you please tell us your name and what community you're from?
Yes, my name is Andrew DeRogers. I'm born and raised on Cape Cod. I appreciate that many people here have different points of view, and that's fine. Many of them are very well spoken, many of them are polite. I'm not going to be. I am that taxpayer that several of the people who sat up here and spoke are talking about. What is on the line is very simple. It is a declaration of your allegiance either to the American citizen, the legal tax-paying American citizen, or the chosen community of foreign nationals who have been trafficked into this country for purposes of census data, for purposes of seats, for purposes of power, and for purposes of taxes. I am sick to effing death of paying for such bullshit. And I'm sick to death of being lectured about compassion, about patience and understanding. I have lived here all my life, and I have been required for all 40 years of that life to obey the law and follow the rules. There will be no Social Security check for me when I can't work anymore. I have never once received any of the benefits that have been spoken of here. Nobody is beating down my door to help me fix up my house so that it doesn't collapse on me or lower the cost of the electricity that I have to pay. I don't get health insurance. I can't afford it. But I am punished by this state for not being able to afford it so that people who are in this country illegally can benefit from it and go see the doctor whenever they want. And that is a fact, and I am sick of it. I am not an ununderstanding individual. I am not an uncompassionate individual. But my generosity has been abused, and I am sick of it. I am sick of being treated as an indentured servant to foreign nationals in my country and in my community. And I don't give a damn whose feelings that hurts. So you can either approve this measure and show legal, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens that they do not matter to you, or you can reject it and show them that you are listening. Those are the only two options. And for the record, I traveled abroad to a foreign nation, and you would not believe the amount of documentation I was required to have on me at all times and show whenever anybody asked. And you can bet your ass if I broke their laws, they would have nailed my ass to the wall. And I was very well behaved over there, and I was very respectful to the people because I was a guest in their country. I wasn't due anything. Thank you.
Looks like somebody needs to learn how to shoot off some fireworks. I'll tell you that much. I lit an M80 one time when we were living on 3rd Avenue in Newark. I lit it and started to back off, and I rolled my ankle, and I collapsed with the M80 sitting right in front of me. I said, okay, guess what I'm never doing again? I was like in war. I went, ah! But not for anything. Joe Rossinello. I'm trying to be optimistic. Thank you for joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, everybody. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rossinello. It's going to be a quick show. A couple important things to talk about, though. And we are definitely going into the breach. Okay, that gentleman that we played the clip of, that guy is America. I read an article recently about people, like, part of being American is sometimes you just have the right to be left alone. Okay, just leave me alone. Now, I obviously believe in community and things like that, but I sympathize with people who say, I just want to be left alone. You require a certain amount of taxes, okay. You require some participation in the society, okay. Generally speaking, though, leave me alone. The American people, Joe, are not being left alone. We're going to play Mamdani I don't know how this guy. I don't. I know what the agenda is, Joe, and you know what the agenda is. The people that watch the front line with Joe and Joe know what the agenda is. The goal is communism. Sorry, E. Michael Jones, Joe and I, we love you to death. We're going to disagree with you. Communism is not an obsolete category. They're telling you, Dr. Jones, they're communists. They're telling you that. Mamdani's acting that way. They're threatening to take away apartment buildings that are privately owned and appropriating them to the state. They're talking about these things, all right? And he goes on this diatribe, Joe, on the 4th of July. We're going to talk about that too. The people are going to start burning things. We have a clip on that too about what's going on in Ireland. Joe, you got to help me. I don't see it. I was just on the phone with my brother for a little while, and we've been talking about it recently. I don't see the end game right now. I think it's going to get a lot worse. If people think it's bad now, it's only going to get worse. And John Thune is not doing anything to pass the Save America Act, so we have election integrity, so we can actually see if some of these idiots that are getting elected are being legitimately elected. If they are, Joe, that's a problem too. I got to throw it over to you. I need help.
Well, I think that second clip with that gentleman from Massachusetts says a lot. What it says is the cat is out of the bag. Now, clearly, that guy is a working guy. You know, he's intelligent in the sense that, like, articulated his message, but he's not like an elite. He didn't go to Harvard, he didn't go to Yale, and he didn't pretend like he did either, as Joe and I don't pretend either. We're regular guys as well. He understands exactly what's going on. What's going on is there is an agenda. They cannot pass it with the people in the country. This is what's going on in Europe as well as in Canada. So they import votes. And he said it perfectly. It was perfectly articulated. And when I saw that clip, I said to myself, if he knows that, a lot of people know that. Now, let's fast forward to the presidential election. You mentioned John Thune, and this gentleman also alluded to it as well, saying basically that he has to show proof of identification. The American people overwhelmingly want voter ID as well as proof of citizenship to vote. This is not me pontificating. I'm not making anything up. Look it up. 80%, 70% of Democrats, 90% of Republicans, 80%.
70% of African Americans.
There you go. This is unprecedented numbers. Unprecedented. When's the last time you heard of 80% of America agreeing on anything? Well, they agree on that.
Right.
When the election takes place, no one's going to believe it, Joe.
That's right.
No one is going to believe it. And that's dangerous. John Thune did not push hard for the American people. We've had this conversation. I'm not going to have it again. It sends a message. The message is you're not the constituent.
That's right.
You're not the constituent.
You're not who we care about.
And this is, again, you don't have, the guy that was talking is not like some, intellectual. He's a normal person who understands exactly what's going on. And that is scary.
No, it's real scary.
Honestly, because that's something that they don't, the elites and the ruling class don't want people to understand. And that shows that people do. How will that be carried out when no one believes the outcome of the election? By the way, no matter who wins. No matter who wins.
Well, the thing is, when you look at the people that are opposed to the Save America Act, like Lisa Murkowski, you can't trust because why? Because she's got an R at the end of her name. She's not benefiting from corruption. How do we know that the elections in Alaska aren't rigged to make sure she gets the Republican primary? She gets the Republican nomination time in and time out. Why else would she be opposed to this? Because maybe there's a conservative like a Sarah Palin, just to use her as an example, in Alaska that says, I'm running against you because you're a rhino. If you have a free election, you're going to see exactly what the Alaskan people think. That's why Murkowski's against it. Perhaps that's why John Thune's against it too. And other Republicans don't want to move it. Susan Collins, okay? They don't want to move it forward because they know the conservative voices in their states, they don't really have a voice. It's not just the Democrats. It's these rhinos who want to keep their entrenched position. And so they want to shut out, let's say, any primary challenge. So it does cut across, even though this is obviously something that the Democrats want more than anything because they're the ones that have the illegals coming in and all that stuff. Wild Child's in the chat room said, "What's the show about?" America's slammed by Mamdani on our 250th birthday. We're going to get into that and a whole lot of other things at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe, let me play the clip. Let me play the clip from Mamdani, okay? And while I play it, by the way, I might just go and puke, okay? And then I'll come back. I'll wash my face, and then we'll have a conversation. This dude is not on his own, Joe. He's got a lot of people like him waiting in the wings. The Democrat Socialists of America are making a move. So let's watch this.
As we mark 250 years, what do we see? We see a city of contradictions within a nation of contradictions. We see the wealthiest country in the history of the world, one where children go to sleep hungry while the world's first trillionaire hungers for more. We see monopolies that dominate every industry and oligarchs who buy elections. We see masked agents terrorizing our streets, eating food cooked by our undocumented neighbors before spiriting them away in unmarked vans. We see a nation whose immense wealth has been built by those with calloused, dirt-streaked hands, those who toil on factory floors and chisel into stone. And we see a nation that has allowed so much of that wealth to be held instead in the soft hands of a precious few.
Now, you and I have plenty of criticisms of our current system. I don't believe that we have a capitalist system right now. I don't.
No, it's crony capitalism.
Yeah. You could call it corporatism. You could, markets are functioning to a degree, but they're skewed because of a lot of reasons, a lot of which has to do with the politics. Okay. Now, whether or not Elon Musk is worth $1 trillion or Bezos is worth $150 billion, they get stock when they go public. The stock goes up, they make money, or at least they're worth that much money. It's all on paper until they actually sell their stock. The fact is, what is he complaining about? Because we don't have a capitalist system. And him and his buddies are all part of that too. See, what does he want exactly, Mamdani? Is he a full-blown communist? Does he want state ownership of the means of production? Does he want heavier regulation? Maybe a bit of both? I don't know. But his criticism of capitalism is, or if he criticizes American capitalism, he's not criticizing. He's criticizing our current version of American capitalism, which, as I said, and I want your opinion, Joe Resinello, it's not capitalism at all.
Here's the thing. The system no longer works for the common man. 50% of America does not own one share of stock. The reason why the S&P is so high is because it's controlled by hedge funds. Everything, it's obviously hyperbolic because he's giving a stump speech, but a lot of what he said is real. The average American cannot make it today. The average person, they have to have 2-3 jobs to make it. This is America right now. This is real. And that's why he won, just so people understand. But his answer is not the answer. The answer is this. Well, let's talk about the problem. The problem is companies are in bed with our government through lobbies. It's not just the Israeli lobby. It's the military-industrial complex lobby. It's the pharmaceutical lobby. It's the construction lobby. It's the agricultural lobby. Mm-hmm. And what he's talking about is very, very real. And they have manipulated our ruling class. And the country no longer works. And I'll give you 2 examples. During COVID, largest wealth transfer in the history of America took place. They shut the economy down to hurt Donald Trump's chances of becoming president. They used the tragedy, because many people died as a result of COVID. Many people did die, yeah. They used a tragedy to impact the whole entire country economically. Largest wealth transfer in the history of America. Look it up. How many people committed suicide? How many businesses went out as a result of that?
So sad.
As a result of the COVID period, look at the average home price, how it jumped about $150,000 average. I think it went from like the average home in America was like 300K. Now it's 450. Now, great if you own a house, but if you don't, you're out of luck. What about
Right.
our kids? How are you going to move forward? The American dream is gone. Look at colleges. Look at how expensive it is. That's a Ponzi scheme. The government gives the colleges money because it's guaranteed. Colleges keep boosting up the tuition, so the government gets the interest on the money loaned. Can't bankruptcy does not absolve interest. You can thank Bill Clinton for that one. So it's a Ponzi scheme. They stole the American dream, and that's what Mamdani is talking about. But now here's the problem. His solution is not the solution. It's a rabbit hole. And every single country that embraces what he embraces, not only does the quality of life of the average person go down, but ultimately it creates other types of oligarchs, and he will become an oligarch. It's just a different type of oligarch.
It's just right. It's the same thing. He just sounds a little bit different because what does he really? Does he really want the well-being of the working class? He's a communist. He doesn't give a crap about the well-being of the working class. They've always tried to. That's how they gained power to begin with. They convinced all the workers out there, like he talks about hard hands and chisels and soft hands that just sit back. And you and I have a lot of agreement with that imagery. Okay. As we've said, as E. Michael Jones has pointed out a million times, labor is the source of all value. So I value those hard hands. But his solution is communism. And what is communism? And I've been saying this for a long time before Joe and Joe. Okay. Communism is not equality of wealth. Communism is equality of misery. That's all it is. It is the equality of misery. So you don't get a better state in life as the proletarian, the working person. We're just going to take the person who's up here and bring him down to your level. But guess who's going to be in control? We are. That's what he's offering. And people, and here's the thing. I think even Nick Fuentes alluded to it. Republicans have to, and I'm paraphrasing him, okay? And if I'm mistaken about this, anybody, you guys could let me know. He said Republicans, Nick Fuentes might sneakily be watching the front line with Joe and Joe, because we've been saying it for a long time now, since the beginning. Republicans need to slay the false idol of markets.
But they won't. I've talked to people like that at work. They still believe, pick yourself up from your bootstraps. Yes, to some degree, that's true. We all have to help ourselves. That's a given. It's a different economy. I graduated high school in 1988. It's a very different economy. A lot of the service industry jobs are not there anymore. Your college degree, which costs infinitely more than it did when I graduated college in 1992, that job isn't there anymore for the average kid. Maybe if you went to a fancy school, that job's there. But if you're an average kid who has a 3.0 from an average school and you acquire $250,000 of debt, I got news for you. You're not going to be able to pay that back for a very long time.
You're right.
This is what I'm saying, and that's what he's speaking to. But people don't know their history. They don't, and also they're hearing what they want to hear. Here's another problem. Politics has become a religion to people, Joe Pasillo. It's their religion. They cut their own throat. They cut their own throat, and that's what they're counting on. They're going to give their freedom away for a crumb. But here's the thing. Has the system worked as if it is right now? No, it hasn't, and something's got to change, and something's got to give, or you're going to get a Mamdani, America. Get that through your head. If something does not change, and I'll talk, nuts and bolts. I'll talk examples. Donald Trump should have broke up BlackRock. Donald Trump should have broke up Vanguard. Donald Trump should have broke up Google.
What's the thing you spoke about last week when it comes to these big companies? Hey, Chris Lopez, welcome to the front line with Joe and Joe. Haven't seen you before, brother. I posted this right up there on the screen. Joe, BlackRock, all these private equity firms buying up all sorts of land. Look at his post. I'll take his word for it. He's in Los Angeles County. Average mortgages between $4,000 and $7,000. You mentioned not being able to pay back student loan debt. How are you going to buy a house? How are you going to buy a house? $4,000 to $7,000. And Joe, I guarantee you, it ain't going to be a big freaking house.
No,
You know what I mean?
no, but
I mean,
this is,
go ahead.
no, but this is the thing, and ultimately, what's going to happen? Our politics has become radicalized because people are looking for solutions. You think Donald Trump is radical? Wait till the next iteration of the Democrat who comes in. It's going to make Joe Biden look like what's it called? Like George Bush.
Joe,
I mean, this ultimately
today.
it's going to be like a ping pong game. It's going to go from radical to radical to radical to radical until a tragedy happens, whether it's manufactured and or it just happens, and then whoever is in power is going to use that crisis to seize control.
Joe, that's
And
going to be the Democrats.
I agree.
I
I
was in
agree
Mass-
because the Republicans don't have the you know what's to do it. That is 100%. Joe, you're right. You are right. That is
Joe, they're
exactly
running
what's
ads
going
in
to happen.
Arizona. If you remember, we had a fear that the United States Senate was going to end the filibuster under Biden. Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin stood up and said, we are not packing the Supreme Court. We are not ending the filibuster. We're not making Puerto Rico and DC states. They're both out. They're running ads here for the next senatorial election in Arizona, and they're using Kristen Sinema to energize the Democrat base. In other words, they're using her as the bad guy. Let's not have a Democrat like her because she thwarted our plans. Joe, I was in Mass today, and I was actually for a change not as distracted as I usually am in Mass. It's unfortunate. A lot of things distract a lot of us, and I don't like when it happens at Mass. And I was pretty at peace, but I will tell you this: what was going through my head was, this is good. This hole we're going down is going to get a lot darker, because in the example you just gave, it will be the Democrats, because they're going to win the midterm, and you will thank John Thune for that, and Rhino Republicans, because they won't do anything. So at least we could feel good, or at least confident, that the election results are authentic. Now, again, if they are and people vote for some of these Mamdani types, now that's a different issue. I don't believe that. I think that states like New Jersey are not as blue as people say. I've said that many times. I don't think Arizona is a purple state. I think it's a red state. I think the swing states are more red than we know because of election integrity. It will be the Democrats. And Joe, the first thing they won't be able to do anything while Trump is in office. So if they happen to win in the midterms, all right, later this year, Trump still has 2 more years. But Joe, what happens after that? And they are going to do it, because they are not the Democrat Party. All right. Not that the Democrat Party was anything I'd ever vote for, even when I was a kid. Okay. But now they are the Communist Party of the United States of America. That's what they are. They're Mamdani just on the 200. He does not have enough respect for America to just say something nice. That's the speech he gives on the 4th of July. I tell him, listen, pal. Nobody has any balls in New York to get up in this guy's face and say, your party worldwide has created more death and misery in the last 100 years than capitalism has in all of its existence. So don't start talking to us about communism. But he doesn't even have the decency to do that. Joe, let me explain something to you, what I was thinking about. I need a minute to tell you this. I was thinking this, okay? We have to love ourselves because God loves us. And I love myself, but I do a lot of things I shouldn't do, and I don't do the things I should. We know that from St. Paul. I love my church, okay? I love the Roman Catholic Church. I love it, okay? Such a part of my life, okay? Yet I don't like the things that a lot of decisions that are made by the hierarchy, by the bishops, by the cardinals, sometimes, dare say, even the Pope. But I love the church, and I love America. And you want to know something? Nobody has more of a beef with America than Roman Catholics. And Roman Catholics in America overwhelmingly love this country. But I don't like the things that our country does. We are a great country. We are truly a great country. Can you imagine how much better we would be? But we do the things we're not supposed to do, and we don't do the things we're supposed to do. There's a difference in the reason why I'm saying all this. Mamdani hates America. He hates free markets. He hates individual choice. He hates religion. I will go so far as to say he hates humanity, because communists at the end of the day, number one, hate themselves, and they hate other people. They think the problem in the world is that there's too many people, and they want a lot less of them. Mamdani doesn't care about the poor Hispanic in Queens or the poor black kid in Harlem. He couldn't give a crap about those people. He cares about power, and he hates America. He'll do anything to change America so that him and Hassan Piker and people like that get all the power that they're seeking. Joe, help me.
During the Great Depression, if people look this up, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, a communist, I believe, ran for president.
Eugene Debs.
There we go.
Socialist.
Got a fair amount of votes. When you can't eat, you will take a crumb. And what the Republicans, particularly the Chamber of Commerce Republicans, and what the upper middle class and the upper classes of America have not wrapped their arms around yet, there are a lot of people in this country that don't have insurance, have no prospects, are looking at ridiculous amounts of debt that they could never pay back, and they are listening to a candidate like Mamdani. Charlie Kirk warned on Tucker Carlson when he was interviewed. I listened to it. He warned the American people about those who are under 40 who have no hope, no financial future. And that is who Mamdani is playing to. You see, this again, what he's saying, and this is what the Chamber of Commerce Republicans can't wrap their arms around. There's a lot of truth to the diagnosis. Go into the middle of America. I was just in Ohio. Go into a place to eat off the highway in Western Pennsylvania. Take a look at who's in there. This is not the middle of the Delta in Mississippi. People are poor, Joe.
Yeah.
And it's visible.
They're not making it.
And this is what Mamdani is speaking to. Something has to give. Why do we have inflation? Well, Joe Biden printed money. He's not the only one. Right. Donald Trump also ran up a tremendous amount of debt with his big, beautiful bill. Look at all the money that George Bush spent on the Iraq war. Look at all the money that we wasted in Afghanistan. Look at all the money that Bill Clinton also wasted because he allowed people to buy homes who made $30,000 a year, and they're buying $400,000 homes so he could get votes.
Right.
Our ruling class has betrayed us. They simply have. And that's why everything costs a ridiculous amount of money. You go into a McDonald's by me. A Big Mac value meal is like $13.
Right.
For a Big Mac, Joe.
Used to cost $3.99.
This is my point. So, and that's who eats it? Do rich people eat at McDonald's? No, regular people. They're going to go out of business because they're not going to spend $80 to take 5 people to McDonald's. Who would? Right. So this is what I'm saying. Our ruling class, and this is what Mamdani's talking about, has betrayed the American people. I'm sorry. That's reality on the Republican side and on the Democrat side. And if it continues, you're going to get a president like that, America. I'm telling you this right now.
And let me tell you something. What happens? Leave the economics, Joe. I'm sorry to cut you off, but leave the economics. You're joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Restinello, Weighing the Breach. Share this. If you're watching it, please share it wherever, YouTube, X, Facebook. Help us out. Forget the economics for a second. He's playing on the economics. Joe, let's keep it with Christians in general, but Catholics in particular. We're dead if that guy comes along. We are toast if that guy comes along that you're describing. Because then what happened to Mark Houck when our Jewish Attorney General, Merrick Garland, sent SWAT agents to his house to arrest him at 7 o'clock in the morning in front of his wife and 7 kids, okay, at the orders of Joe Biden, our so-called Catholic president, Okay. You think that that was bad? It's going to get worse. What's going to happen when you have 21 people on the Supreme Court? Okay. Which has now become basically a tool of the left. What's going to happen then? We're done. You try having this conversation. You think that them trying to shut down social media during COVID was bad? Wait till a guy like Mamdani and then goes behind, well, people are not really going along with the agenda. So we're going to have to shut down their hate speech. And that's what they're going to call it. They're going to call it misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech, and give the government the type of power to be able to shut us down, to tell YouTube, Facebook, X, particularly X, you're going to shut these guys down, and anybody who talks like this, because they're not going along with the revolution. People might think I'm being a little hyperbolic, but that's what they did.
Well, that's what they're doing in Canada, Joe.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what they're. I mean, I think France has banned X. I think Brazil has also put a lot of sanctions on X as well. They understand that because
Right.
the person who controls the message controls the people. And that is an absolute fact, what you just said. And here's the worst part about it. People will still vote for him anyway. One, it's lack of formation. Two, they don't know their history. And three, politics is their religion. They can't see past their hand in front of their face. They
That's right.
don't think linear. They don't think downstream. They ignore things that impact them and their family greatly because it's their religion.
Right.
Listen, I voted for Donald Trump. He's not my God, and the Republican Party is not my religion. I think the Republicans are the second worst thing in America. The only thing that's worse than them are the Democrats.
Are the Democrats. I had this conversation, like I said, just before we came on. I happened to be chatting with my brother, and I think my brother might be sneakily watching the Frontline with Joe and Joe too. But we were talking about how Donald Trump laid the foundation. At some point, Donald Trump's got to step back and let somebody who's going to have the guts. I happen to think I could be wrong. I happen to think it's a guy like DeSantis. I hope if Marco Rubio is the guy or JD Vance is the guy, they're going to do more than Trump. That you won't get a big, beautiful bill with that next iteration. That you are going to get a lot more aggressive than Donald Trump has been. And he's done some good things to really use the leverage of the presidency on a Senate majority leader like John Thune. I'm really hoping that. But here's the thing. Let's go to Ireland for just 1 second here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. We'll come back and we'll tie it all in.
And that's coming, by the way. They just did it in Belfast. That's coming. People starting to light things on fire is coming. That's coming. I'm not calling for it. I'm not saying it's good, but it's coming because voting's become fake.
Right.
No one cares. People on threads. It's fake. It's fake. It's so obvious. It's fake. X. It's all fake. So the only and you know what? Again, I'm not calling for it. It's bad, but fire is real. If you ask the people at Palisades or Malibu and whatever, RIP, I like the Palisades, that stupid mall, I liked it. But this is real. People are going to start realizing that all this technology has just been set up to give you this idea that you have some effect, and all the while, Jared and Ivanka just go buy an island. That's what's happening.
Fire is getting started in America. Joe Rossinello here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe with Joe Pasillo. Fire is getting started, Joe, is going to be the least of our problems if they don't do something with the elections. People, Joe, we're not calling for it. People are not going to just be content with starting fires. There's going to be violence. You see that guy we played in the second part of the first clip, the guy up there in Cape Cod. Okay, guys like him, who at the very least would like to just be left alone. But how about people who don't want their voices silenced, who want to make sure their votes count, who want to be able to go live like Joe and Joe do on social media and let our opinions be known? Joe, a lot of those people are going to pick up guns and there's going to be violence. And the mistake, because it's chess, it's not checkers. Mamdani and the rest of him know that. In fact, they're banking on it. They're banking on it. What happened to that kid? Who was the kid up in Wisconsin? Kyle Rittenhouse. So he shot that Antifa kid in self-defense. He was exonerated in court. His life's never going to be the same. The Mamdanis of the world want more dead Antifa on the street because that's going to give them their excuse. Their what would you call it? Their yeah, just call it an excuse for amassing more power to themselves. Because they say, look at the violence that's going on out there. But in the meantime, the violence is simply a reaction to what they're doing. I mean, it goes and it's running from everything from economics to queers dressed as women in the libraries reading to our children, and then the school board and the county and the state say, Joe Russell, you have no right to go in there and question that. You have no right to do that. A girl gets raped. A father's daughter gets raped by a boy pretending to be a girl, and they arrest him. In England, a bunch of immigrant thugs just beat up a white kid on the street. The cops came and arrested the white kid for defending himself. Joe, the answer is going to be violent. I don't think there's a way around it. If these people are going to gain real traction like Mamdani has simply by getting elected in New York City, Joe, people are going to start looking to their guns. And it's not going to be pleasant. It's not, and I don't want it, and you don't want it. But this is what the communists want. And right now, they are on the ascendancy in America. Joe, the enrollment in the Democrat Socialist is gaining strength. That is a scary prospect. I need your help with this.
Well, for those who don't know what happened in Belfast, an Irish national was brutalized by a Senegali migrant. And the Irish people, obviously there's a history in Belfast of a lot of violence with regard to the occupation of Ireland by England. They went into a Senegali neighborhood and they burned it to the ground. Now, that's not the right approach, clearly, but this, to what Joe Pasillo is saying, is real. This happens. And when people feel disenfranchised, as the Irish do, as the English do, as the French do, and to some degree, so do the Germans, that's what happens. Again, it's history. It repeats itself. And that is real. Wait until the election. Wait. No one is going to believe the outcome. They're not, because you don't have to show ID. I'm not going to believe the outcome.
I'm not.
And that doesn't make me a conspiracy theorist. That just makes me a person who's objective, because they are telling you that they are going to allow non-documented people. They have said it by their actions. And how much is enough? When your livelihood is being taken, when your rents go up, when your wages go down, that's real. That's real.
That's very real.
And this is what I'm saying. Our politics, as a result of that, is going to get more and more radical. That's what made America unique, is our politics was never radical. And the transition of power was always peaceful because we had a stable standard of living. We are now breaching, we're not there yet, but we're getting close to what happens in banana republics. The transition of power is never peaceful in places like in Central America and in South America. And you get radical changes in leadership. That's where we're at. And it's only going to get worse until the Democrats seize control, one-party system, because they will do it, and it's going to be on the back of a crisis.
Did you hear, by the way, I forgot the source. I apologize, everybody out there watching at the front line with Joe and Joe, that there are growing voices in the Democrat Party who we know the whole party is not on board with AOC.
Absolutely
we know
not.
that there's some, I mean, John Fetterman has shown himself to be a fairly reasonable guy. I probably disagree with him on 8 out of 10 of his policy positions, not the least of which is abortion.
He's not
But nonetheless,
yeah, I get
he's
it.
sounding fairly reasonable, so he's dangerous to them. But I've heard that there are others like him in both the House and the Senate that are not. They're as, what do you want to call it, concerned with the rise of the Democrat socialists.
Well, I
within
think
the Trump party.
it's a good point you bring up. I think they're concerned because I think they think that they can't sell that nationally. You see, there are voices out there, and I've listened to a few of them, that basically are saying the more that Mamdani gains control, because obviously he's in, a place like New York City, which has embraced it. But that doesn't mean the nation is going to embrace it. Is that going to win Texas? Is that going to win Michigan?
With cheating, it will. With cheating,
Well,
it will.
that's what Joe. That's why John Thune did what he did.
John Thune, let's just say it here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Right now, I feel John Thune is a traitor. I know that's a heavy
John
accusation.
Thune is
he
part
is a
of,
traitor.
John
to this
Thune
country.
is bought and sold. John Thune is bought and sold, and frankly, Donald Trump should have called him out and said that. Just what I just said. Bought and sold. Oh, Joe, I'd say 1 in 3 of our politicians are bought and sold. And that's why the system doesn't work. It doesn't work. We are not the constituents. As Tim Dillon rightfully said, Tim Dillon's a comedian, but Tim Dillon called it. How could you possibly take the election serious?
Right.
How can you take it serious when you're not having to show ID? How? I'm not. I can't take any of it serious. It's pure theater.
You remember the scene? I told you about in the movie 1984, where Richard Burton's character, I think his name was O'Brien, he's talking to Winston. John Hurt plays Winston. He's talking to him, and just a brilliant scene because you have two heavyweight actors. And he says to him, he says, Winston, I'm going to show you the future of man. Picture a boot stomping on a human face. That's the future of man. Now I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it. I don't understand what it's going to take for people to realize that people like Mamdani do not have your interests at heart. Let me give you an example. What are they? You mentioned Texas. You mentioned a Mamdani-like guy, let's say in Texas or in Michigan or in some of the swing states where even Democrats in those states are going to go, I don't want this. Okay. But what would he do? What happens to the black liberal Democrat, always voted liberal Democrat, right? That owns a brownstone in Harlem, and he goes to appropriate their home or raise their property tax by 20, 30, 40, 50%. Because that's what his aide, Mamdani's aide, was suggesting when she said, well, we need to rethink private property. Of course you do, because you're a scumbag communist. That's why you need to rethink private property. But what are they going to do to that black liberal Democrat who owns a brownstone in Harlem when they try to slap a 50% property tax on or confiscate part of their or all of their building? Because that's ultimately what he wants. What are they going to say then? Because,
by the way, they don't care because the new vote is who they just let in from the border. What African Americans have to get through their head is they don't need you anymore. They at one time did, but they saw that 1 in 5 African American males voted for Donald Trump. 1 in 2 Latinos voted for Donald Trump. They panicked. They let in a new voting class. That is who is going to get all the goodies. You're out. Some people have realized that. If you listen to some of the town hall meetings in Chicago on the South Side and in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, you, if you're paying attention, will pick up on that. They're beginning to complain. That voice is going to rise. You're out. You're out. You're no longer needed. They have to figure that out, but they're going to figure it out too late. Now,
they're going to figure out the hard way.
Yes, they are. They are. Let's look at the educated African American class. They will vote. What's the carrot? DEI. But the guy in Newark, he's not getting that job.
Right.
So he's out. By the way, the guy in Newark has always been out. And the elite African-American class has not helped the African-American in Newark for 60 years. In fact, they have been in the same position for 60 years. Give me your vote, forget about you. But now they're really out. All their entitlements have to be shared. If there's nothing left, you're out.
You're out. You're right. And again, I mean, all of this, the Mamdanis of the world, they know exactly what they're doing. We did mention that they're going to be backing off some of the climate stuff because they're gonna need the energy to fuel the data centers, which is going to be their next mode of trying to control us. And we all know that's coming. But Joe, they don't go down without a fight.
Morning, the death toll keeps climbing due to the brutal heat wave gripping Western Europe. In Spain, nearly 500 people are thought to have died, according to an estimate by public health experts. In France, at least 55 have now drowned trying to cool off. From Germany to Italy, some scientists say the stifling heat wave gripping the region is the most severe ever recorded. These are unprecedented times, said the French president. The extreme heat also taking a toll on animals, from pets to farm animals. In the French capital, some tourists have reached a breaking point.
We are actually going to leave a little early because it's too hot.
With dozens of cases of cardiac arrest, emergency cooling baths have been set up for people with sunstroke. And to ease the pressure on Paris hospitals close to a breaking point, authorities are heavily restricting alcohol consumption. Starting this morning, no drinking alcohol in public places, and starting this evening, a ban on takeaway alcohol. The heat is especially punishing for residents of those iconic top-floor apartments. I'm in a typical attic apartment in Paris. Now, look out the window and take a look at those metal roofs. They are all over the city. They're made out of zinc, which traps the heat, making this week feel close to 120 degrees.
Why do Europeans not believe in air conditioning? Europe had over 60,000 heat-related deaths in 2022, while the US only had 1,700. That's 35 times more, which means more Europeans are losing their lives to heat than Americans are to gun violence. So why is this? Only 10% of European households have air conditioning compared to 90% for America. But what's interesting is you can see how the average annual temperature for the United States and Europe are not that different. So why doesn't Europe have AC? Well, air conditioning in Europe is a touchy subject. It's kind of frowned upon and seen as bad for the environment. On top of that, electricity is more expensive in Europe, so that could be a factor. But then there's also more regulations like strict building codes, and then there's stuff like this where you can't set a thermostat below a certain temperature. But probably the biggest thing is European media tricking people that they don't need AC. If you look on the internet, you'll see a lot of European articles like this saying air conditioning is not necessary. There's been decades of environmental campaigns in Europe that have convinced everyone that AC is bad. But they might have to do something because European summers keep getting hotter. Paris recorded more days above 40 Celsius this week than the last 150 years, and as a result, over 850 schools are closing. Also, keep in mind that most buses, metro lines, and shopping malls in Europe do not have AC either, which sucks because everyone says the summer is the best time to visit Europe, but maybe it's not anymore. Meanwhile, in China, they even give pigs air conditioning, but the average European doesn't get it. How does this make sense? What do you think about this? I feel like it's safe to say that Europe probably should get more serious about air conditioning.
And they're literally inspectors going around in England telling people that they have to take their air cons off of their homes because they're illegal and that they should have ceiling fans instead. I know, they're in a heat wave and they can't have air cons. This is from the Telegraph. Cop a load of this. They report that in one string of cases that was uncovered by the Telegraph, a resident living in North London was forced to permanently remove 2 aircon units from the back of their home. Planning inspectors working for Camden Council said there was, quote, no justification for the aircon units and that they failed to comply with the local authority's so-called cooling hierarchy. Now, this cooling hierarchy, by the way, is that you have to use every other possible thing before you get the aircon. So in an appeal, the resident was told to open the windows and balcony doors of their first floor flat to ventilate the property, quote, by natural means. They then said they were concerned about the security, but that was dismissed. And the inspectors said the risk was not as great as those associated with ground.
Joe, the world is upside down, Joe. I cannot believe Europe has been through such turmoil in her history and is just rolling over, just saying, here, just kill me, just control me. Like Europeans used to be some tough SOBs. Look at Europe during the Crusades. Look at the type of men you had in Europe, Richard the Lionheart and others, when the Muslims tried to come into Europe through at the time, it wasn't France, but the Frankish king, Charles Martel, beat back the Muslims with outnumbered 3-1. What happened to the men in Europe? What happened that they're letting all of this take place to their own destruction? What happened to those who will rise up against these tyrants? I don't know. And it's, you know what it is? It's sad because we're watching it in real time. I don't get it, Joe. I don't.
One of the things that I am very happy that Donald Trump put forth and I voted for, and I'm so glad that he did it, is he distances himself from the EU. The EU, the leadership of the European Union, are fascists in the truest sense of the word. They have destroyed their own people for power. They have destroyed the French, the English, the Irish. They have destroyed the Spanish. Spain is gone.
Portugal's gone too.
Gone. They destroyed their own people. Globalism is a disease. Donald Trump, at least to a degree, is for national sovereignty, and every single nation should be for national sovereignty. You should be proud of where you're from. If you're Italian, if you're French, if you're Spanish, you don't belong to some larger community. They have destroyed their own people, and this is just another example of it. What is going to happen when the data centers get built? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. They're going to use your information against you. They're going to weaponize all the information that they have on your phone against you, and they're going to create an open air prison. That is how they're going to control you. And that is exactly why Larry Fink said, and many of the people, ease up on the climate. If it was so imperative that the world was coming to an end, do you actually think they would say ease up on the climate? What does that tell you? It tells you that that was a psyop. Once those data centers are up and running, they're going to use your information against you, just as the Chinese use the information of their people against them in the social credit system that they have in place. They don't have to scream. They don't have to police. They police. The system polices itself. They penalize you for buying certain things, for saying certain things, and they know you did it because it's recorded on your phone.
Right.
And that's exactly what they're setting up. And what's next will be digital currency. And that nails it. We're done. That brings in a 70 to 90 year period of suffering. That's what that brings in, Joe Pasillo.
Well, I think you're being optimistic when you put a time limit on it, because when you have that kind of power, I mean, I don't know. We've always said on the show at the front line with Joe and Joe that, you know, all regimes will come and go. They'll last for a certain time. Sometimes it could be hundreds of years. Sometimes it could be 7 decades like the Soviet Union. Doesn't mean that they didn't create a lot of misery. But when you could control the information, when you could control through digital currency, and basically, like you said, create a digital prison. Who did we have on? Was it Neil Oliver that we showed last week? Is that his name? The Scottish gentleman? He called it a digital prison, a digital cage. You know, you say to yourself, okay, that's on a different level now. And that could last. The only thing that's going to stop that is an act of God, is God's direct intervention, because people are going to be powerless, certainly be disarmed. Okay. If you own a gun, they'll say, yeah, you can own a gun, but you're not going to be able to eat. Go ahead.
Your money's no good.
Your money's
Turn
no
in
good.
your gun. Your money doesn't work. You can't go to the store. You hear people, I crack up. People, come get them. The guns in Texas. Come get them.
They don't have to.
You have to do that.
They don't have
Your money
to.
doesn't work.
Right.
You can't buy anything. And it's
When your baby is starving,
that's my point. Come get them.
7 Magnum that you're cherishing, and they say, okay, you could keep the 357, but your baby's going to cry until your baby dies. We're not giving you any food. You're going to give up that gun for your child.
But this is what I'm saying. That's and the information. That's for those if they think we're making this up. Look into the social credit system that China uses to control its population. They have it down to a science. The data centers are going to take all that information and they're going to weaponize it against you. That's and how do I know that? Larry Fink actually in a speech talked about fear of domestic terrorism, drones. He said, I have a fear, you could probably find this clip. I have a fear that a $3,000 drone can take out $1 billion data center. Who's he talking about? Domestic people, regular people, seeing them for what they are and looking to take them out. He understands the fear, and that's why they have to control the messaging. And that is exactly why they're building these data centers to control the messaging, to weaponize your information, to control you.
Right. And they're going to have no choice. If you ask me, look, the environmental hoax was benefited them for decades now.
Oh, totally.
To amass so much power to themselves through regulation and legislation. That's chump change compared to the control they have with data centers. They will back off this. But in the meantime, in Spain, you got thousands of people dead. You got people in the hospital. They got a fan. What's the fan going to do? The fan is blowing hot air, you idiot. But they know that. And again, remember, we say this about them all the time because it's true. We're not just saying it at the front line with Joe and Joe. Their solution, ultimately, Joe, we have to say, their ultimate solution is death. They are, I don't even call them a party. These oligarchs, the communists, the socialists, they're not a party. They're a brood that comes straight from hell, whose father is the father of lies and the murderer from the beginning. That's what they are. Their solution to everything is death. Death to the point where you have enough people that are able to go out there and work to make you rich and comfortable in your families. You'll throw them a crumb, basically like the slave owners did in America. Give them enough to eat. That's all they need. Just beat them into submission. They're going to just technologically beat you into submission by controlling your bank account, by controlling whether or not you even have any money. I mean, that's what they did in the Soviet Union. You got rations. You got rations at the end of the week with 2 bottles of vodka. Always make sure. Joe, I'm going to give you the final word on this not so upbeat episode at the front line with Joe and Joe.
Everything we talked about is not hyperbolic. At least I don't believe it is. And it's not conspiracy. If you look into everything we talked about, why voter ID isn't being utilized in America, questioning election results, Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court Justice, after the COVID pandemic, which affected the election, he wrote about people who don't have confidence in elections, the danger of it. 2002, look it up. The Heritage Society printed something on it. You could read that. All of these things. Also, think to the beginning of the show, the regular man who no longer sees hope in his future, who understands clearly what's going on. A lot of people see it. It's not a secret anymore, Joe Pasillo. What happens then when our elections continue to get more and more radical, where people like Mamdani gain control, ultimately leading people down rabbit holes, none of which will benefit you or your family? Call yourself a Republican or a Democrat, you're not part of the club. This is where America is at. And to be honest with you, I'm not the only person saying it. Many people are saying it. Academics are saying it. People who've been around a long time, who've been studying politics and societies for a long time. We're here. And I will tell you this. We will not fix this country through the election system because the people who run America will not permit it. Look what they did to Donald Trump. They tried to assassinate him 4 times. And if you ask me, he didn't take it far enough.
Joe, I mean, I look at it this way. I know I said I was going to give you the final word, but I guess I'll steal the final word back. E. Michael Jones says we're at the end of the Third Republic. I would encourage anybody to watch E. Michael Jones. Now, and I think he's right. I think he lays out a very clear, intelligent argument and backs that idea up with historical evidence. The hopeful part of it is, okay, I think it's undeniable that we're at the end of a particular age in America. He calls it the Third Republic, which began after World War II. I think it's undeniable that the ground is shifting under our feet. That's one of the reasons why we're here, because you and I recognize that, and many other good people recognize the ground is shifting under our feet. The hopeful part is that people are going to get their heads on straight, and the Fourth Republic is going to be on much firmer ground, okay? The scary part is that we lose. And then the people like Mamdani and the Democrat Socialists of America and their voices in social media like Hassan Piker actually gain real power. That's a scary proposition. I'm going to try to be on the more hopeful side of this because ultimately I do believe God is in control and God does not want us to suffer. I think we need to step up. So it'll be interesting to see. I think 2028 is going to be a telltale sign, maybe even the midterms, about what direction we go in. What direction is the right going to go? What direction is the left going to go? Are we going to get that ground firm underneath our feet? I'm going to try to remain hopeful. Not that easy, but Joe Resinello, as always, great conversation. Hey, Joe. We had a couple new viewers. So we got Ronald Walker said, "Thumbs up for the algorithm of hard truths. Freedom, stay strong." That's a great place to end it. Thank you all out there for joining us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Rosinello. We have our interview shows that we post all over social media. We do that. We post it. We go on the radio twice a week, and then we post it on social media. If you like Catholic interviews, sometimes they're not always just Catholic, but you could check that out. That's all out there, and we go live on Sunday afternoon where we talk about things that are important, like we talked about today. We always appreciate your support. Help us out, like, subscribe, share. Do all that fun stuff. We'll see you next week. And remember, until then, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.